Good afternoon, everyone. Ian Maddox, Hitchcock Maddox Financial Partners, connecting with you on our continued series, COVID Comeback. Anybody that lives in the city of Trussville might recognize this backdrop. If we panned around, you'd see that we're sitting here in Ferris Artisan Ales, part of the Trussville Downtown Entertainment District. And I have a guest with us today that many folks may not know, maybe by name, but this is Coby Lake, and he is the owner, operator, developer of all this concept down here. And I just wanted to thank you for joining me here today.
Yeah, not a problem.
Talk a little bit about your business.
Glad to be here.
You, I think you could bring a pretty interesting perspective to this video series that we've done. We've talked to various people the last several weeks, different organizations, healthcare, retail, electric distribution, church leadership across the board. Mm-hmm. What I think is unique about your situation is that you are twofold. One, developer, right? But you're also a restaurant operator, brewery operator.
Right.
So you're combining two very distinct business models into one enterprise. The last 14 months has been a challenge, I'm sure.
It has, yes.
Give me some perspective from what you guys have experienced, you and your team here. What areas were the most challenging as we've been through this kind of global pandemic?
Well, I mean, you just went through a lot of different industries, and I think the only industry that's within the hospitality umbrella is Ferris.
Right.
So, it's difficult when the health department knocks on your door and says, "Hey, you're not allowed to open. Right. Shut it down." And so, just the, I call it the mental capital. I mean, it's just it's kind of taxing, on an owner when you have to furlough your employees, you have to shut down your businesses, and I mean this is not just my only restaurant, brewery, so I had to shut them all down. Right. And so, I mean, it was taxing. It was taxing financially, it was taxing mentally, and it's
emotionally.
Yeah, of course, emotionally, and so, we basically had to shut down and then reopen because we had just opened the doors right before the pandemic hit. Right. And
it was bad timing. I mean, you couldn't have controlled it. No one could, but it's just, you never know.
Super bad timing. And then in addition to, shutting the Ferris down, we basically had to shut down all of the other construction because of the unknown. We didn't know how long it was going to last. We didn't know what the end result was going to be from all this. So we just had to kind of wait and see and put everything on hold. And you got a lot of money, you got a lot of time invested, and it's
stressful.
Yeah, it's very stressful for everybody.
And I recognize that certainly on the hospitality side, you have the staffing issues, right? The burden of that, and then cash flow. But again, we can't see in the scope of this video frame the amount of capital and investment and energy that's gone into this. And development is cash flow intensive. It's cash intensive. Did you have any challenges there? I think I know the answer, but any challenges there with like your banking relationships, credit lines? I mean, what were you able to do to kind of adapt and float through that a little bit? And you may still be on the transition of that. You still may be at the back end of kind of having to mix things up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess the only transitions, well, first thing I'm going to say this is that, so when people come here, they see the progress that we've made, but what they don't realize is that this vision, this property, this development, I started on this 5 or 6 years ago.
Right.
And so, it does take a lot of time and it takes a lot of capital. But in terms of adjustments that I made for my banking relationships, you have to have a strong relationship with your banker.
Right.
And
they have to believe in you.
And probably always have
more than one.
A backup. Always
Yes.
have a backup.
Yes.
And so, which I had going into the pandemic, which I still have today, but the major thing for me was that when this project went on hold, so we have the debt service. And so
that doesn't stop.
That does not stop. That does not stop. And so the only thing that changed for me in terms of my banking relationships was, well, maybe it would be better to have a capital partner, so there is no debt service,
right.
and to look at how that will affect my project in the short term,
Sure.
in the long term.
Profitability.
Right. Does it make sense? Because it does reduce stress if you don't have the debt.
But you're bringing in a complexity with an equity partner.
Right, you're bringing in some, it's not as simple as just getting a loan.
Right.
And then you have the human factor that.
Sure. Do you get along with them?
Right, you get along with them. So,
that's critical.
right. So in terms of adjusting, that was, my mindset was only adjusting to say, hey, should I reevaluate and get an equity partner as opposed to just a bank?
Right. This next question kind of stems off of that, and maybe it's the same answer, but my next question is, having gone through what you've gone through, has that changed your kind of psyche or mentality about future development? Like, have you learned something that you say, I would have done this differently, and I'm going to apply that intelligence going forward?
Well, it's look, you never know what's going to happen, okay? I mean, you can't plan for everything. I do know that it never goes the way that it's supposed to go and the way it's planned. But yes, the answer is yes. And it just goes back to bringing on equity partners as opposed to taking on debt. Because debt can be toxic.
Right.
And if there is some issues and it takes a lot longer than anticipated, that really eats into the numbers and creates stress and anxiety and additional debt that wasn't originally planned for. So does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Okay.
No, in fact, I was just having a conversation with a client this morning, and we have access, not quite as direct as what you're doing, but we have access to private equity investments, and it's the same idea. You know, the question the client had was, well, why would they do that? Why don't they just get a loan? Yeah, it's the same dialogue. You know, you bring in a partner, it while it's a different complexity, different risk, it gets you out of this commitment and burden that can't go away, right? You're contractually obligated to it.
Yeah.
And so there's some fluidity or efficiencies you gain by doing it that way.
Yeah, so before the pandemic, I guess I was a little bit more willing to take on debt. Post-pandemic, I am very conscious and I'm intentional about reducing and keeping that extremely low.
Right.
Almost, my preference is zero debt.
Right.
That can't always happen, but so that's what's changed.
Sure, that's good. Last question, and this is really kind of you giving back, I guess. I know you give a lot to the city. I mean, you've been a great partner. I have exposure, as you know, to the redevelopment authority down here in Trussville, and so this has just been spectacular, your commitment to the city. And I know it's beneficial to you, but this is a great thing that has happened, and this has just really transformed our town. But if you were talking to someone kind of interested in development, real estate investment, or even running a restaurant, like, you know, just trying to start up or get moving forward, what advice would you give them? That could just be general. It doesn't have to be in light of COVID, but just in general.
Just generally speaking, I would say probably work on your business and not in your business, and try to surround yourself with people that are smarter than yourself, because this is a team effort. So I try to surround myself with people that are smarter than me, because there's a lot of different aspects that go into a development like this that I don't have a skill set for. So I try to bring in people that have skill sets, and even if it's the same skill set as mine, if they're better at it than me, that's who I want.
Sure.
To make me better, to make the development better. And I think that's true with a restaurant, with a development, with any type of business, to work on it and not in it. And I know that's not always possible, but
sometimes you've got to get in the trenches.
That's the long-term goal.
Right.
Because I'll get back here and I'll serve beer. I'll do whatever it takes.
Right.
And that's what you have to do that. But at the end of the day, my goal is to have this bigger than just me, because it is.
It's a team.
It's a team effort, and I couldn't have done it without the city's support. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
No, 100%. Perfect. That's perfect. No, I appreciate your insight. Hopefully our viewers do. I know that they will enjoy that. We have different folks from different backgrounds that watch us, even clients that own restaurants and things like
Sure.
that. So your perspective is good, and I love that part about surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you. That's hard to do.
It is, yeah.
Because it's intimidating, and our own egos can get in the way. It's
Yeah.
like, why do I want to hire somebody that's better than me? Well,
Right.
but it's wise.
Yeah,
Wise.
it's a constant struggle for us because, if I have, say, Nate as the brewer or Ian as our chef, I'm like, guys, in order to make your life and your job easier and to make us better, if you have an opportunity to bring on somebody that has more experience than you do, you need to latch on to that. And I think human nature is exact opposite. They want to
Protect.
They think it's protecting their position, not, to push those people away. And it really makes everybody better.
Right.
It makes the organization better. It makes their jobs go smoother and less management. So that, I try to preach that to everybody within the organization.
Right. That's awesome. Coby, I appreciate your time. We'll be back together next week with another guest on our COVID Comeback series. Until next week, Ian Maddox, HMFP.